The Star Wars Unlimited Galactic Championships is taking place this weekend. So in today's video, we are going to go over 5 possible decks that I would potentially look at playing if I was taking part in the tournament itself. It's going to be an incredible occasion where we're going to crown our first ever Galactic Champion in a brand new Legends of the Force format. My name is Ben Fitzpatrick. I'm a TCG caster. It means I just love talking about them. So let's do that right now. Before we get into any of these potential decks that I'd look to play at Vegas this weekend, if you do enjoy this video, go ahead and drop a like rating on it. Subscribe to the channel down below and turn on those notifications so you do not miss an upload. Comment down below with any decks that you might either be playing in the tournament this weekend or looking to play this weekend. And drop me a follow over on X while you're down there as well. I'm going to try and stream most of the Galactic Championships this weekend. Of course, I'm not going to be there in person in Vegas, unfortunately, as much as I would love to be. I didn't get asked or picked to go ahead and cast the event, which understandably so with kind of what's going on in America and things like that at the moment. And I'm not flying to America because I just don't quite have the capacity to do that at this time. But I will hopefully be streaming a watch along of the event. So I've got my link tree in the description now. Yeah, that's right. We're going all official and putting a link tree down in the description, which will have my Twitch channel link, twitch.tv/BenFitzLive. That's where the action should be. But of course, follow over on X as well for all of the announcements and updates of when I go live over on the channel. So, Legends of the Force is now in our hands, and players have started to get a little bit of tournament experience with the new format as well. Big thank you and shout out to Swoo Competitive Hub for compiling some of the results from some of these smaller tournaments that we have started to see from Legends of the Force. And through this data, through these kind of finishes, I've had a look at 5 potential decks that I would be interested, or I think are going to do well in the tournament this weekend. We're going to start off with a deck that's going to be absolutely no surprise to anybody. It's Han 2 with Command. Han Solo 2, Han Solo Worth the Risk, was one of the strongest leaders towards the end of the Jump to Lightspeed format. A lot of people were breaking into this leader and turning him into quite a fast-paced aggro style of deck, typically with things like either Energy Conversion Lab or Data Vault. But now, with Legends of Force, we've got these 28 HP Force-generating bases. Whenever a friendly Force unit attacks, you create the Force token. The Force is with you. So what Han 2 has kind of generated into now is a Force tribal style deck. You've still got a lot of your kind of generically good cards in here. You've still got Force Throws, you've still got Timely, you've still got Blue Leader as well for ambush either into the space or ground arena. You've still got Red 5, Poe Dameron, Home 1, some Crate Dragon in here as well if the game goes the distance. But now we've got a lot more of these Force units that are coming in list. Things like Adi Gala as a quick combo play to go on turn 1 if you're playing it out with your leader ability. You've got things like Gungi here, this big 2/5 vanilla, which a lot of people initially would have kind of passed over, but with it having that 5 HP, it can eat some damage from the Han Solo leader ability. We've got Grogu here as well, which can heal 2 damage from a unit and then deal that much damage to a unit as well. So you can Han leader ability something into play, then on phase 2, play Grogu, phase 3, use the action to heal some of that Han damage up from one of your earlier units, and then play it out onto, and then deal it out onto elsewhere. You could also even just play this out phase 1 with Han leader ability, claim the initiative, and then on phase 2, use Han leader ability again, play something out for 1 like the Gungi, and then Grogu, heal that damage back up, and ping away onto your opponent's units. We've also got things like the Padawan Obi-Wan here, which gets Sentinel for the phase if you play a Force unit, or when you play a Force unit. You've got Eth Koth here as well, which when defeated allows you to use the Force and ramp a resource, put this card into play as a resource. Chiari Mundi to draw 2 cards if you use the Force. We've got some of our top end here in Mace Windu, Kelleran Beck, the 8-cost Yoda as well, one of the new legendaries from Legends of the Force, which is very, very good when played and when using the Force. So helps combine with this Jedi Temple. And of course, with Han Solo, we can potentially look to play some of these top ends out cheaper and sooner than when we would initially look to play them in. We've got some very interesting cards as well that are in the sideboard of this build. We've got Kit Fisto's Aether Sprite, which was a new card from Legends of the Force, 4/5 for 5 in aggression and heroism with Saboteur, and when played, can defeat any number of upgrades on a unit, so a little bit more upgrade hate on a beefier body. We initially had stuff like the Disabling Fang Fighter, which would help defeat an upgrade when played. This defeats any number and is on a bigger body, and of course a little bit higher cost that you have to pay for it can be offset by the Han Solo leader ability. So some big upgrade hate here if we're running into any sort of like Voltron style deck, a deck that wants to just load a bunch of upgrades onto one unit and swing hard with that. We've also got 1 copy of the Daughter in the sideboard in the deck as well. 5-cost mono heroism 4/6 that when damage is dealt to your base, use the Force, which you're going to generate quite frequently because of the Jedi Temple effect, generating the Force whenever a friendly Force unit attacks. If you do, you restore 2 from the base. So really, really interesting tech inclusion here, potentially to try and help counter some more of the aggro style strategies, either in an aggro mirror with Han 2 or with something like Sabine Wren, which we'll talk about in a second here. But Han looks very, very well poised with this brand new take on the deck to do very, very well this weekend, if not even potentially win the entire Galactic Championship. As I said before, Han Solo Worth the Risk was one of the leaders that a lot of people were playing at the top end in the end of the Jump to Lightspeed format. I know a lot of players did quite well with it at the regional qualifier in Lille. Michelangelo Wendowski was one of them, of Team Enigma's fame, was originally playing Jango Fett, and then after that got banned. This was the deck that he pivoted to, and pivoted very, very accomplished to. So is this new take on it finally going to be able to sort of push it over the edge and get it a major tournament win? We will have to see this weekend. Next up, we've got one that's a little bit more of an interesting choice, and one that I'm maybe a little bit more biased towards because I own the showcase leader for this deck. That is Gar Saxon, Viceroy of Mandalore, with Cunning. That has been the traditional aspect pairing with Gar Saxon in Vigilance and Villainy, and has been a leader that's been sort of floating around the doldrums of the format for quite some time. When it released in Set 2, it was kind of in that Tier 1.5, Tier 2 kind of status, which is kind of where it's sat stagnant since its release, really. Maybe dropped a little bit further in Twilight of the Republic. Jump to Lightspeed was in a little bit of a weird state. You couldn't really play it brilliantly in the Jango heavy meta because Jango would just ping all of your shields away and completely take away the Gar Saxon leader ability, giving you that +1 attack boost for a upgraded. But now with Jango gone, and now with a little bit more support to this deck as well, maybe, it just maybe, it might look to try and break through to that Tier 1 potential. Obviously, the aim of this deck is to get a load of units onto the board with shields on them, or experience tokens, or something like that, because they count as upgrades and work with the Gar Saxon leader ability, meaning that you don't have to pump a load of extra resources and a load of extra phases and actions into playing a unit and painstakingly attaching an upgrade to them to help get that Gar Saxon leader ability online. You've already got that inbuilt with the shield tokens. So we've got things like Director Krennic in here, Shuttle ST-4149, 7th Fleet Defender, your typical cards that you're used to seeing in Gar-Saxon deck. But now, with Legends of the Force, we've got a couple of brand new inclusions in here. We have Secretive Sage as an extra Phase 1 play, a 2/2 for 2 which comes in shielded, so it comes in as a 3/2 for 2 on Phase 1 with Gar-Saxon ability. We've also got Shin Hati here, a 3-cost Cunning Villainy card, which is a 4/2, has the hidden keyword, so can't be targeted on the turn and on the phase that it is played, and comes in with a shield, so it's a 5/2 on Phase 2, thanks to the Gar-Saxon leader ability. It gives you a very, very good and aggressive start in game state. Then you've got your typical kind of event cards and upgrades that you're going to play along with it. Power of the Dark Sides is a bit of control. No Good to Me Dead, again for tempo. Surprise Strike to maybe be a closeout to win the game. Waylay is in here as a one-of, interestingly, in this list. Hotshot DL44 Blasters. You'll always play this exclusively out of Smuggle in this deck because it has the Cunning aspect on the Smuggle cost, so you don't have to pay any aspect penalties for it. Snapshot Reflexes is a cool quick snap tech to be able to immediately attack in with an attached unit. So say you've got like Shin Hati on the board, for example, from Phase 2. If you can keep a hold of the initiative going into that 4-resource phase, and you think, well, 2 HP does have a shield on it, but that might very well get pinged and taken care of pretty quickly. Let me try and boost it up even further and get it maybe a little bit out of range of any removal that my opponent is holding onto in their hand. Snapshot Reflexes for 1 and attack in for what will be 6 damage in total in one swing. 4 from the base attack power, +1 from the Gar-Saxon ability, and then +1 from the Snapshot Reflexes in here. I'm a fan of this deck. I really, really enjoyed playing this when it was more the traditional, you have to play this with a load of upgrade cards. And now, in the way that it has been sort of metamorphosized, I think this card might just, and this leader might just sneak and be one to watch out for. Next up is one that is not going to be a leader that is going to sneak by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to go hard, fast, and aggressive. Of course, Sabine Wren with Energy Conversion Lab. One of the few decks that has remained relatively untouched in its kind of play style and its kind of mentality since its release all the way back in Spark of Rebellion in Set 1. It's just pure aggro, pure go and win this game very, very quickly. Got, obviously, typical cards, Battlefield Marine, Fleet Lieutenant, K2, Pilot Luke, Poe Dameron, loads of other options, Green Squadron A-Wing in the air, Wreckers as well to pair with your Poes for a cause I believe in to potentially close out the game. There's not really too much movement that has happened with Sabine Wren through the new set. What has been included in this has been a couple of copies of Yoda's lightsaber, which is really interesting. A 2-cost Command Heroism upgrade, attach it to a non-vehicle unit. When played, you may use the Force. If you do, heal 3 damage from a base. It's a +3/+1. The interesting thing about this build of the deck, though, is that there's no ways to actually generate the Force in this list. So this is literally just being played as a upgrade to grant something +3 attack and help try and close out a game, really. So very interesting that we are including this here without having the opportunity to use that healing effect. I do like the idea of having it in here with something that can generate the Force. You're on the Energy Conversion Lab, so you've only got 25 HP on your base, and what looks like could be a very kind of middle-of-the-road format. You can go against quite a similar amount of aggro decks as you can kind of control and slower grindy decks. This here, healing 3 damage from a base, that can be the difference maker between winning or losing a game and winning or losing a set in most cases. So I'd be very interested to see if people are going to explore a little bit more with that kind of Force mechanic in this deck. But ultimately, This is your traditional Sabine Wren. It's going to go hard, it's going to go quickly, and it's undoubtedly going to make day 2, if not even day 3, on the Galactic Championships. Because remember, the Galactics is a 3-day event. There's day 1, which for this year is an open entry field. Anybody has been able to go ahead and buy a ticket and play in day 1. Then you will have day 2, where the day 1 players will qualify and join those that have earned a bye into day 2, either from doing well at a sector or regional qualifier or winning a planetary qualifier. And then those players will go and progress through onto day 3, depending on who's well. And that will be the day that we crown our first Galactic Champion. 2 more decks that we're going to talk about quickly in this video here. One of them is a completely brand new deck that has been taking the format by a little bit of a storm at the moment, or at least what early results would be showing off, and that is Mother Tolzin. Mother Tolzin is a Vigilance Villainy leader who has action, tap this, force, so you lose your force token, give a unit -1/-1 for the phase, being paired with the Strangled Cliffs aggression base. Generate the force anytime that a friendly force unit attacks, which makes sense as a pairing. You're using the force really often for your leader effect, so you want to have as many ways as possible to generate that force token. And what we've got here is kind of a mix of good force stuff and good Vigilance Villainy stuff for the most part here. We've got things like your Force Lightning, your Force Throw, Fang Fighter as mono aggression here is just generally good stuff. Power of the Dark Side, Fantastic Control Piece, Fallen Lightsaber, Ruthless Raider. We've seen those cards in plenty of other decks before. Heroic Sacrifice is a very interesting card and inclusion in the deck because we're playing this out of Aspect, so we would have to pay 3 for this. However, there's one big reason why we're playing Heroic Sacrifice, and that's because we're playing Anakin Skywalker, Champion of Mortis, that when played, if there is a heroism card in your discard pile, you can give a unit -3/-3, and the same effect activates if you have a villainy card. So, we've got 2 different ways of activating that double effect and giving something -6/-6 and being Luke Skywalker in a villainy deck. We can obviously just flat out use Heroic Sacrifice on something, crash into either base or into unit. Unit is going to go ahead and be defeated away when it deals combat damage, so it doesn't matter whether it's just sort of a kamikaze trade in or not, and get it in the discard pile that way. Or we have Merrin here, which is a 3-cost mono aggression force unit, 2/5 on attack. You may discard a card from your hand to deal 2 damage to a unit. So you could burn something for 2 early game on attack while discarding the Heroic Sacrifice and setting it up for the Anakin effect. Really, really interesting effects that we've got here. Elsewhere, you've got some other just sort of generally good Force and Sith cards. We've got Acolyte of the Beyond, which creates the Force on attack and when defeated. And it is not a Force unit, so doesn't sort of double stack with the Strangled Cliffs. We've got Karis, we've got Night Sister Warrior, which draws you a card on defeat. Talked about the Secretive Sage in the Gar-Saxon deck as a shielded. Grand Inquisitor, another one of the Legends of the Force legendary cards, a 3-cost aggression villainy 3/4 with hidden raid 1, and it gives other Inquisitors hidden as well. There aren't too many Inquisitors in the deck as it stands at the moment, but that could change. This is just kind of a basic foundation of what the deck has been looking like. We've got Darth Tyrannus here as well, a shielded unit that has ambush if you still have the Force. Tolzin's Assistant, 5-cost Ventress, 7-cost The Sun, 1 copy of that as well. While the Force is with you, friendly unit gets +2 attack, and as we've established, the Force is going to be with you quite a lot. All of the attacking that you're doing with Force units, Strangled Cliffs, This is really, really interesting. It's really, really cool. It's kind of mid-rangey, I'd want to say. It's not quite pure aggression, it's not quite pure control, but it certainly does have the potential to pivot in either of those two ways, I think. It's just quite a nice mid-rangey, middle-of-the-road capable deck, it seems like here, that's getting a lot of benefit off of the Force token. I mused throughout the build-up to the release of Legends of the Force about how important and impactful that the Force token and the Force mechanic was going to be in the format once the cards were fully out. And it looks like with Mother Talzin that it is being very, very useful indeed. Sideboard pieces, quite simple, quite normal for aggression decks. We've got Shamsindor to help with ramp, Pillage to help deal with any overly aggressive card draw decks and things like that. Force your opponent to discard to 0 cards in hand. You're already spending a lot with having to use your resources from your hand to be able to play those units from your hand as well, for those that are unfamiliar with Star Wars Unlimited as a card game. Bombing Run to be able to deal with multiple action. Crate Dragon if the game goes to a distance and you want that big overwhelming 10-10 on the board. And then we've got Chirrut in here as well as a bit more of an interesting tech choice here. But Mother Talzin just looks generally like a good kind of Force Matters deck. And definitely something that I was very, very happy to have included in this video, to see that there is Legends of the Force leaders that look like they are impacting the meta, at least in the early stages. Of course, we've still got a big weekend. Could see a lot of surprises coming forward as well. The final deck that we're going to talk about in this video is again an entity that was known to us from a couple of the previous formats, but has gotten a little bit of extra support in Legends of the Force, and that is Cad Bane. Cad Bane, the kind of Boba and Django replacement in cunning and villainy, paired with aggression and the Tarkin Town base here, and it's an Underworld Matters type deck. Underworld Matters, mid-range, value, using your cards like McClunky, Bazine Natal, Cartel Spacer, kind of helps lock down the board a little bit. Bosk, Zuckuss, and Forlom as your Bounty Hunter trio. You've got Pilot Boba in there as well, which can be paired with Mist Hunter, which on attack, if you played a Bounty Hunter or Pilot card this phase, you can draw a card with it. You've also, of course, got your 7-cost Cad Bane, capture a load of units, your Ruthless Raider. Now there are 2 of them as one being included in this list. I really, really like, because if you control exactly 1 unit, play a non-vehicle unit from your hand that shares a trait with that unit that's already on the board, and it gets a 5 resource reduction in hand. Of course, you've got a lot of Underworld cards in the deck, so it's very, very likely that you're going to be able to get that shared trait activating here. In terms of newer cards that we've got entering into the deck, in this list, there's not actually any at all. There's one card that I'm surprised hasn't been included in this list, which I'll talk about in just a second. The one that is here, however, is Aura Singh, 2-cost cunning villainy unit, 1/4 with hidden, and has raid 2 as well. So it's a 3/4 2 when it attacks with that raid ability. So generally just sort of, again, cunning villainy, good stuff here. Getting those Underworld synergies for your Cad Bane to be able to ping, force your opponent to ping a damage on one of the units. You've got Relentless Pursuits as well to be able to capture and give any of those bounty hunters that you use as the captures for the card a shield token as well. Very, very good deck. Very, very nice cards indeed. Sideboard, again, looks very, very kind of traditional from what we've come to expect. Confiscate in the sideboard to help deal with the upgrades. An extra copy of No Good to Be Dead, or in fact, a copy of No Good to Be Dead. Lurking TIE Fighters, Bazine Natal, IG-2000 to spread some extra damage around, an extra copy hand, and 8-cost Devastators. Card is just generically very, very good. There is one card, though, that I think is potentially missing from this deck. 2 cards, maybe, actually. One of them a newer card, one of them an older card. One of them, a little more fringe, Lady Proxima. Lady Proxima is a vanilla 0/5 that has the effect of whenever you play an Underworld card, you ping 1 damage. I think it's ping 1 damage to base. So with this big Underworld theme, this Underworld Matters theme you've got going on here, being able to get all of those pings adding up onto base, not just going on units with the Cad Bane effect as well, can add up really, really nicely and turn this into more kind of an aggro-slanted mid-range deck as opposed to a more mid-range generic style deck. That's what I've been advocating for quite some time. It's not quite made the impact and it's not quite been included into Cad Bane lists at the moment. Whether now is the time, I'm not 100% sure. But another card that I did think was going to really, really make a splash in the Cad Bane deck was Marchion Ro, one of the legendaries from Legends of the Force. 6 cost, 6/7 in Cunning and Villainy, with the Underworld trait, so it activates Cad Bane. Each friendly unit's raid is doubled. Considering that we've got Aura Sing in the deck now with raid 2, we've got Lurking TIE Phantom with raid 2, and the Cad Bane leader unit, when it's deployed, has raid 2 as well. It just felt like it was a great opportunity for me to be able to double those raid abilities and put a lot more pressure onto your opponent. Those raid 2s all of a sudden turning into raid 4s. And of course, with them being Underworld cards, they do trigger things like Cad Bane. You can bounce them back into hand with a card like McClunky if you really need to, if it becomes heavily damaged for any sort of reason. Unfortunately, it's not a bounty hunter, so it doesn't quite work with Relentless Pursuit, but you can cheat it into play earlier with now there are 2 of them. If you go ahead and go on phase 1, play the Aura Sing, use Cad Bane effect to ping, then phase 2, play down something like Bazine Natal, or maybe you do it the other way around. You go Bazine Natal phase 1, look at your opponent's hand, guard something, phase 2 Aura Sing. You'd have to have something defeated though, so you can't quite use now there are 2 of them. There's a way to use now there are 2 of them. There is definitely a way to use now there are 2 of them. I suppose you just take one of those phases off. Maybe you smuggle out a Hotshot Blaster onto the Aura Sing. That might be some kind of play that we could make. There's Bamboozle or Waylay or something like that. There's some options here. With now there are 2 of them, and to bring Marchion Ro out onto the board a lot earlier and put a lot of pressure onto your opponent as well. So Cad Bane looks like it's continuing to be strong in the format at the moment, and I'm very interested to see that if this leader does finally push up to that upper echelon. It's been around here and there, very similar to kind of Gar Saxon, but Cad Bane has been more viable for longer than Gar Saxon has realistically. There was a lot more hype and chatter around Cad Bane, particularly in the lead up to the Lille regional qualifier, than there was with Gar Saxon. Now I think might be the opportunity that Cad Bane is looking for, with this little bit of extra support to push it into that real true tier 1 status of deck. So those are the 5 decks, the 5 leaders that I would be looking at and considering for the Galactic Championships in Vegas this weekend. Now, though, it is over to you. What decks are you playing if you are competing in the Galactic Championships this weekend? What would you be looking to play if you were going along? And if you are competing and watching this video, good luck this weekend. We'll be keeping an eye on your journey very, very closely. But until then, that is going to be the end of this video. If you have enjoyed it, please go ahead and drop a like rating on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on those notifications. You do not miss a video for Star Wars Unlimited and other TCGs that we are covering here on the channel. That is going to do it for the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.